Congressman Randy Fine, great to see you this morning. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Me too.
Thank you.
These ICE agents, the left believes they can do anything they want, and we're just supposed to sit down and take it. It's time for Americans to say enough, and if you get in the way of the government repelling a foreign invasion, you're going to end up just like that lady did yesterday.
All right, Florida Congressman Randy Fine, great to see you this morning. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Moments before the shooting, the victim's maroon SUV is stopped in the middle of the street. Multiple unmarked federal vehicles are idling nearby. Secretary Noem alleged the motorist, quote, was blocking the officers in. Bystanders are blowing whistles and yelling at federal agents.
Go home to Texas!
Then, federal vehicles start moving toward the maroon SUV, with sirens and lights blaring. A federal agent films the scene on his phone. The driver rolls forward slightly, turning left, then stops and waves for others to go ahead. Two agents exit this silver pickup and walk toward the vehicle. Shots are fired. Agents exit this silver pickup and walk toward the vehicle. Moments later, shots are fired. Let's look at the scene again more closely. This is the agent who shoots the driver. He walks around the car filming and disappears from view. Other agents pull up and order the driver to exit her vehicle. One of them grabs at the door handle and reaches inside. The SUV reverses, then turns right, apparently attempting to leave. At the same time, the agent filming crosses toward the left of the vehicle and grabs his gun. He opens fire on the motorist and continues shooting as she drives past. The moment the agent fires, he is standing here, to the left of the SUV, and the wheels are pointing to the right, away from the agent. This appears to conflict with allegations that the SUV was ramming or about to ram the officer. President Trump and others said the federal agent was hit by the SUV.
Now, what you've got to understand is, particularly, I don't know what happens in America, but we'll look some other examples. In Australia, if you're told to get out of the car by the police, you get out of the car. You don't just drive off. I don't know if it's the same in America, but let's look at some other examples. Now, we've got to get this clear, viewers. This lady has been blocking the traffic. She's been breaking the law. She's been doing it on purpose. She's got a record of doing it. Whether the police are aware of this or not, but they're used to people blocking them and getting in their way. And here's another example. Apparently, the woman says that she's not angry at them. But that's not the point. If I got pulled over by the police for blocking the traffic, me saying to them I'm not angry at them is going to be completely irrelevant. They want to fix the problem, which is getting the car out of the way, which has deliberately been put there. Now, you've got to ask intent. What was the intent of this person? It was to block the traffic. It was to break the law. So now she has to take accountability of it, and she's not going to because she's going to drive away. Let's see what happens.
It's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us.
Okay, so this is apparently the wife of Renee Nicole Good. They're lesbians. And she's hounding the police.
Later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking guy. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
Okay, so she's being rude to the bloke. She's trying to play the tough man. She's obviously the male in the relationship.
Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
Now, it's all a bit of a joke, isn't it? But she's got federal agents bearing down on her. And from what I understand, the wife, or the husband, the wife, I'm not sure, of Miss Good, they're both females, tells her to drive, baby, drive. And she does. She doesn't listen to the police, the federal officers. She listens to the male or the female wife in the relationship who leads her to her demise. She listened to the wrong person.
Out of the car.
Okay, so drive, baby, drive, drive.
Oh! Out of the car.
So the wife, I don't know which one's the husband or the wife. You can't tell these days. They're both female anyway. She says, drive, baby, drive. In other words, break the law. And the woman was shot and killed. Now let's examine the whole character of this person that is apparently the wife of Miss Good.
Get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car.
Go and get yourself some lunch, big boy. So she's telling them what to do. So this woman needs to be accountable as interfering between the law and justice. Watch this. This woman, Miss Renee, Nicole Good, is being told to get out of the car. Just let me get the place back speed a little bit slower. And listen to what the wife, this woman here, says to her.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
See that? Right. There she is there. Listen to what she says.
Out of the car.
She told her to drive. She told her to drive. Now this man knows something we don't know about Miss Renee, Nicole Good's wife.
Hey, just a little tidbit about the left's new hero. Yeah, she only has custody of one of her kids. And the reason she only has custody of one is that her domestic partner, a woman, yeah, she likes to beat the shit out of kids and put cigarettes out on their arm. And she chose that woman over her kids. Yeah.
Now remember, she listened to the same woman that he's talking about in preference to the police.
The court was basically like, hold on, if you're going to stay with her, you don't get to keep the kids. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. So when people were asking, why was this mother not at home taking care of her children? It's because her children were taken away from her. Because her partner likes to beat the shit out of them and use their fucking arms as ashtrays. It's amazing to me that every hero of the left turns out to be an awful human being. Like, that's not surprising, but it's the reality. Because anybody that would believe in the ideology that the left believes, anybody that would take action and try to run over a federal agent, yeah, I could assume that they were an idiotic piece of shit. But I have to say that the level of choosing your partner over your children, of staying with someone who likes to beat the shit out of your kids, That's a new level.
Okay, so here's an example of somebody who's carjacked a car and the police are trying to sort it out. Let's just see what happens, right?
Get out of the car! Stop! Stop! Stop!
No, didn't stop. Now, this very well could have been the other side of the Nicole or Renee Nicole Good story, because she was driving off. The wife told her to drive off against the request of the federal agents.
You're getting on a motorcycle.
Shot fire, many officers been hit.
Okay, so that guy got shot for not obeying the police and taking off. Okay, here's another example of police being ignored.
Sir, stop where you're at. Let me see your hands. Drop your phone.
This is what these people
drop
got to
your
deal
phone.
with, like the police.
Stop where you're at and drop your phone. Stop where you're at and drop your phone. Drop your phone. Drop your phone.
Phone and get on the ground.
713, hold the channel. Gun.
Fleming Springs.
713, Hamill at some point. Shots fired.
And he's dead. He's
Upside down.
dead. That's it. Finished. Disobeying authority. Okay, here's another example of them not listening to the police. Look. Turning away from the police. Shot. Dead. Okay, there's another example. Okay. Now here's another example. This person's being chased. Now we don't know whether Miss Renee Nicole Good would have gone this far, but by all intensive purposes, she probably would have. Okay.
This tire's coming apart.
Okay, so he's got out of the car and he runs off and he gets shot. I don't want to show that, but again, it's the same kind of intent. It's disobeying police and breaking the law. Now let's see how this works in America. This guy's actually got out of the car, but...
Give me a 40 over there with him.
Can't trust anyone in America, I'm telling you.
Turn around. Good. Drop down. Drop down. Hey!
He reached for a gun. Let's see what happens.
Hands up, hands! Move up. Don't fucking move. Don't move up. Hey. Don't hold.
I'm not gonna move, I swear. Put your hands in the air. Driver.
Step out of the vehicle.
Here's another angle.
You got lethal?
I got lethal.
Keep your hands up. Walk towards me.
Now, Jake, go ahead on over here.
Turn around. Gun! Drop down to the ground now! Drop down!
Okay, so he had no chance. Another example. Oh. Let's read this from Title I, US DOJ Policy on the Use of Force. Firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless, number one, a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or number two, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury, and no other objectively reasonable means of defence appear to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle, which all happened pretty quick in Renee Nicole Good's circumstances. Okay, here's another instance. Okay, so he's putting the window up for a reason. He's been told to open the door by his mother or somebody. He's just ignoring everyone. Open the door. He's not listening. And he started shooting a gun. And he got killed. Okay, this one's an instance of another person that didn't stop, but they've been cornered. Now, this very well could have been how Renee Nicole Good could have ended up.
Car smoking, he's done. He's done. Oh, there's...
Okay, here's another example. Now, this particular car is actually ramming the police. Now, you might say that wasn't the intent of Renee Nicole Good, but it's still the same abuse of authority. Now, how many times did, in the case of Miss Renee Nicole Good, did they block the road? Because he's just rammed the car twice. That's 3 times. And he's dead. And that's the end of that. This boy got killed in France. The police said that he was using the vehicle in a way in which would have endangered them, possibly killed them. Now, one of the things that has to be brought out here is if you put yourself in front of the law, you're risking your life. Now, whether it be you sitting in a car, putting your foot on the gas pedal and taking off or whatever, here's an instance, a sort of a more extreme instance.
Right! Reverse! Reverse! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Why did you go?
Now, he's getting into a car. He's being told, don't do it. Don't do it. He's running from the police. It's no different to driving off from the police. They're right in front of him.
Hey, don't clap that man now.
Oh, don't shoot him.
Don't clap that man now.
Why he didn't just get the taser?
Don't clap that man now.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh!
He's gone. That's the end of him. He didn't listen. Are you getting the point? You've got to be getting the point. Okay, these are the useful idiots, or useless idiots, or whatever you want to call them, that are trying to protect illegal immigrants. They're no different to the pro-Palestinian mob that we've got in Australia. They're just a menace.
The head of Minnesota State Investigations Agency said that they have been cut out of the investigation into the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Can you explain that reversal?
I'd like to know where they've been and why they're not out on the streets investigating all of these people that are harassing and inciting violence on law enforcement officers right now. They're allowing the situation to be volatile. They're not doing their work. Yes, sir.
They've been cut out.
They have not been cut out. They don't have any jurisdiction in this investigation.
We have our state. Please go home.
Minnesotans, I will continue to press that we be part of the investigation, that we do the investigation, so that Minnesotans can trust what the outcome is. I don't have a...
How could you trust this grub? He's involved in the biggest fraud scandal in American history. They are completely stupid and blind.
Determined notion. Yes, I saw the video. Yes, I saw that. But a thorough investigation will see what happened before that. It will take all factors in, and it will come up with a fair and just conclusion. And we will accept that. Very, very difficult for Minnesotans.
Now, these are the same people that are antagonizing federal officers. Why? Why would you defend illegal immigrants?
Think in any way this is going to be fair when Kristi Noem was judge, jury, and basically executioner yesterday.
I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation.
Now, this is a very key statement, because when there's a terrorism act, you never hear the Muslims speaking up against it. And the reason for that is they can't, because it's part of their Islamic ideology. And to be honest, as far as what I can understand from Islam, if you're not part of jihadism, you're not a Muslim. You're just pretending to be.
Precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue, that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.
Here, or in this case, this officer right here, same guy, was he actually placed in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury? In general, there are 4 legal justifications for using lethal force. These are them right here. We're going to ignore 3 of them because we're going to just talk about this first one right here, which is that you yourself are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. If this officer was in fact in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, he probably has legal justification for using lethal force. Now, I think we can probably all agree that getting run over by a car is certainly imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. So if that was a possibility, if that actually was the reality of what could occur, then there is a strong likelihood that the officer's actions here were lawfully justified. But for all of the people, the Jacob Frays of the world and everything like that are just coming to their own legal conclusion, might I remind them to check out what Minnesota law says. For example, Minnesota Statute 609.066, authorized use of deadly force by peace officers. Oh, there's a statute directly on point in Minnesota that talks about when peace officers may use lethal force? Yeah, there is. And here's what the statute says. A, notwithstanding the provisions of section 609.06 or 609.065, the use of deadly force by a peace officer in the line of duty is justified only if an objectively reasonable officer would believe, based on the totality of circumstances known to the officer at the time and without the benefit of hindsight, that such force is necessary, and necessary to do one of the following. 1, to protect the peace officer or another from death or great bodily harm, provided that the threat, 1, can be articulated with specificity, 2, is reasonably likely to occur absent action by the law enforcement officer, and 3, must be addressed through the use of deadly force without unreasonable delay. Which is a fancy legal way of saying you need to be able to articulate a very good reason and prove to us that you really did not have any other options. Now, the imminency, that is, how quickly could this happen, is always a critical component. So had the officer who discharged the firearm maybe been 30 yards down the road and had plenty of time to get out of the way, this would be an entirely different equation here. But let us remember that the officer is directly in front of the vehicle at the time that she decides to punch it. But then there's additional statutes that would apply to anybody in this situation, whether they're a peace officer or not. Take, for example, Minnesota statute 609.065, justifiable taking of life. That statute specifically states, the intentional taking of the life of another is not authorized by section 609.06, except when necessary in resisting or preventing an offense which the actor reasonably believes exposes the actor or another to great bodily harm or death, or preventing the commission of a felony in the actor's place of abode. So if the ICE officer here reasonably believes that they had been exposed to a high probability of serious injury or death, not only themselves or any other fellow officers, they are justified in using lethal force. And then, and of course, Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey should know this because it is Minnesota law, and it took us all of about 10 seconds to look it up. Believe it or not, there is specific law that talks about the authorized use of force against police officers. So let's say that for whatever reason, the now deceased believed that she had absolutely every right in the world to block traffic, to go out and protest, to obstruct, hinder, delay, whatever she was doing with the ICE operations. Understand that this Minnesota law specifically states, deadly force used against peace officers. Deadly force may not be used against peace officers who have announced their presence and are performing official duties at a location where a person is committing a crime or an act that would be a crime if committed by an adult. Well, it is very clear that they did announce who they were. They did announce their presence. And what was their whole purpose of being there was to round up people for what? That's right, illegal activity. Okay, and then there's one other little legal issue that we need to discuss. And I do believe that some who believe this was cold-blooded murder are going to start beating on this drum anytime now. And I think it would be relevant if the officer was, in fact, more like 20 or 30 yards down the road and had a serious opportunity to get out of the way of the moving vehicle. Because in Minnesota, believe it or not, they have a duty to retreat. Just another strike against Minnesota, why it is really one of the most terrible states in America right now. But under Minnesota law, if you are in a public place and can safely avoid a confrontation or escape from danger, the law requires you to do so before resorting to force. All right, and again, if we take this officer right here, put him all the way down the street here, then I think we could at least analyze this under a duty to retreat. But when you are a mere few feet from the front of a vehicle, which is clearly hell-bent on accelerating in your direction, you don't really have that opportunity to retreat. So, America, seeing both of these video clips, understanding the legal framework, what's your opinion? Do you believe that this was a justified use of lethal force, or do you believe this was excessive force and thus constitutes a homicide? And that is the $64,000 question. But now let's take more of a 35,000-foot view and ask ourselves this. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well, I suppose when you have literally every single politician from one of the two major political parties, including the most vocal of those coming from the state of Minnesota, basically calling ICE officers the Gestapo, the Nazis, things such as that, where they are essentially advocating for violence against law enforcement officers. And I want you to understand that even though you may not be thrilled with what ICE is doing, understand that ICE constitutes law enforcement and they're just out there doing their job. And there is a time and an opportunity to fight the legality of what law enforcement has done. I've made a living out of doing that. It does not occur on the street, however, it occurs in the courtroom. And it is this villainization, it is this violent, vile rhetoric that has come from one side of the political aisle that has created this very incendiary situation, one of extreme volatility. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that this will be the last incident that we have to break down where someone gets violent with an ICE officer requiring them to defend themselves.
Your first post that you put up was this one. Can you share that with people?
I put that post out yesterday, late afternoon. Like I said, the incident in Minneapolis today is yet a tragic example of the results of the hateful rhetoric and violent attacks against the men and women of ICE and BP, Border Patrol. These brave men and women are forced to conduct law enforcement operations in heightened threat environments every day. Like all Americans, our officers have a right to self-defense.
Right. Do you believe this was a self-defense situation?
Yes, absolutely.
And why do you say that?
Look, I looked at numerous videos, and look, I'm a trained law enforcement officer. I carried a badge and gun sergeant in 1984. I was a Border Patrol agent. I was an ICE agent for decades. I know their training. I know what the law requires. I truly believe that this officer had a split-second decision. He obviously thought his life was in danger, which authorized him to use lethal force. If you look at the totality of the circumstances, he's in an unfriendly environment where law enforcement isn't responding to ICE recalls for assistance. This officer was already attacked by a vehicle a few weeks earlier. He had no retreat. You're talking about a 6,000-pound SUV, and he's on foot. Vehicle coming at you, he felt his life was in danger, life of other officers in danger, and he used his authority to protect. As sad, as tragic as it is, the officer made a split-second decision, which I think he was justified in doing.
And you say as tragic as it is, people respond to this like, hey, you have the authority, you use it, and you move on. I fear people characterize that as you don't care what happened to this woman or anything of the sort. I know you better than that.
That's absolutely false.
You care a lot about what happened.
And I've said it many times. I said it yesterday after my first interview. Every night I go to bed, I pray for the safety and security of the men and women of law enforcement and the men and women that we are arresting. I don't want anybody to die. And I was asked yesterday to comment on the video, of course, a cherry-pick video. Again, not having any other information, just got off an airplane. And I simply don't want to get ahead of the FBI's investigation. I saw, and this is my belief, the officer acted correctly, but what like I said, and will continue to say, let the investigation play out. For members of Congress to come out and say this is murder, and I've seen numerous members of Congress saying ICE murdered a U.S. citizen. Are you kidding me?
All right, so here's where we're going. My team, because they love to torture me, heard our discussion about NPR's Up First this morning and went back and cut the bit about Renee Good's Pinterest. Would you listen to this?
Well, a reporter from the Minnesota Star-Tribune spoke with Good's mother. She described her as the kindest person she's ever known, said she was not involved in any kind of anti-government activity. Good was the mother of 3 kids. The youngest is about 6 years old. We know she had a home repair business with her wife in Kansas City. We also found what appears to be her Pinterest page. And that page, to put it simply, is filled with the things of a normal human life. Ideas for recipes and haircuts, plans for a garden, and tips on parenting, like how to soothe a child's anxiety and fun things to do with them in the summer.
Jesse, that's it. And listen. The New York Post has an explosive report out today that talks about how this woman Good was an anti-ICE warrior who was part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the ISIS crackdown in Minnesota. She moved to the city last year. She linked up with the anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first and involves kids in political and social activism. She was a warrior. She died doing what was right. A mother named Lisa, whose child attends the same school, told the Post. They say that she was trained against ICE agents, what to do, what not to do. It's a very thorough training, says Lisa. Is it to listen to commands, know your rights, whistle when you see the ICE agents, and so on? She was doing everything right. Last but not least, these Goods, Renee and her wife, had no love lost for President Trump, leaving their Kansas City, Missouri neighborhood to move to Canada after the 2024 election with plans to leave the country for good. They lived there for a few months before settling into Minneapolis, said a former neighbor. So this woman who's she's just about the recipes, Jess. That's it. She just loves her recipes. Was a freaking ICE-trained agitator.
Can you imagine how disgusting her recipes must have been? There's no way that woman was a good cook. There's no way. That's one. 2, I think normal people would be shocked to discover the level of professionalism these communist warriors, you know what, I'll use their term because that's how they see themselves. Normal people, even politically active people who go vote in primary elections and get involved in elections, do not really realize the level of organization and sophistication of the communists in the United States of America. And it's always been this way. And let's remember, we have elected officials like Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, America's second biggest city, traveled routinely to Cuba for communist training. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, traveled to China about 8,000 times. Nothing shady going on there. If you talk to any former communist street animal in this country, and I've talked to many, they will discuss classes, courses. They have retreats. We don't do this kind of stuff on the right. If anything, and I ran for Congress twice and lost twice, but you gather people up for 5 minutes on a Saturday and say, here's your list, and please be polite, and here's some bumper stickers to hand out, and go knock on some doors, and have a good time, everybody. God bless, gather around for a prayer. That's the extent of our training on the right. Communists don't do this. They have whiteboards. This is what you're allowed to do. This is how you can impede if you do this. And beyond that, Megan, I know you know about this because I know you've talked about this. They have phone numbers you can call if you do take things too far and get yourself in handcuffs, where you can call a number and somebody will post bail on your behalf. It is a level of, it's an army. It's a guerrilla army operating inside of our borders. It doesn't want you to know that. So whenever one of them takes it too far and gets shot, you have to talk about her Pinterest page on NPR. Just a loving mother and poet who made a lovely kale salad. But in reality, that woman was trained and most likely paid.
I'm sorry for her family, for her children, but it is because of her own choices. That's just the harsh reality. She made really, really terrible decisions. And now this just in, Jesse, we've been asking yesterday, along with many others, where is the videotape from the cop? Because I'm not going to name the cop right now. His name is out there, but I don't want him doxxed. It's not important right now what his name is. By the way, he's an Iraq war veteran. He has a family of his own. And again, he was dragged just last June by an illegal while he was trying to arrest him in ICE, a child molester, to save people like Renee Good's children. So he had reason to fear these cars. So he took out his cell phone and he was videotaping this whole encounter. And we asked ourselves in our audience yesterday, where's that tape? Well, guess what? Alpha News just got it. And they're amazing. They're in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. They've done great reporting on the whole Derek Chauvin case. And here it is. We're going to play it for you. This is the vantage point from the cop leading up to the moments of the confrontation. He's getting out of his car. You can see him approaching the maroon SUV. She's behind the wheel.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning.
That's her talking. I'm not mad.
It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking guy. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself.
This is the wife.
Go ahead. Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out.
She's getting in.
Whoa.
Here it goes. Let's re-rack that. Let's re-rack the very last part and we'll play it again. But Jesse, what we see there is her wife antagonizing ICE. This was obviously part of an op. She's filming them. She's trying to upset them. And I didn't realize the wife was trying to get into the car at the time Renee Good steps on the accelerator and hits the cop. Let's watch it again.
So when she tries to step into the car, she's saying to the driver, "Drive, baby, drive."
It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking guy. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
See, the wife said to her as she was trying to get into the car, "Drive, baby, drive, drive." And she listened, which was a really bad decision.
I mean, you can hear the collision. You can hear her hit him. And by the way, Jesse, if you slow it down and you look at the screen grab of Renee Good's face, you can see she saw him. She's looking right at him. I mean, we have it here. You'd have to zoom in, but I did it on my phone. She clearly saw the officer and accelerated. I don't know that she wanted to run him over. I don't know what she intended, but it doesn't matter. What he saw was a dangerous instrumentality about to kill him, and that is why he opened fire. Your thoughts on it?
Now she's dead. I just think it's so sad, but these are this is you start doing drugs. Please don't start doing drugs, Megan, not that I'm concerned for you, but you start doing drugs, heroin. It's something terrible like that. You make choices, bad choices. They lead to other bad choices, which leads to other bad choices. And one day those choices get you killed. I've made a bunch of terrible choices in my life, many of which could have gotten me killed. And by the grace of God, I'm still here. But that's a woman who knows the whole background of how she got involved in communist politics, all the meetings, all the training, all the this or that, her and her wife. And they led her to Minnesota one day, and now she's gone. She'll never see the age of 38. And the terrible tragedy, as we talked about in the first hour, is the communist leadership that encourages these people, organizes these people, pays these people, billionaires, people in the media, Democrat politicians. They won't change their ways today, Megan. There's no humanity in it for them. They're not sorry at all. They'll send a bunch of other poor idiot dregs out to die again today and tomorrow and the next day. They'll kill the whole world if it means money and power for themselves. Yeah, it's
was it like 6 or 8 months ago? Remember they said more people need to die. We need to cause more chaos. More people need to die to get attention to our issues. Well, Renee Good was sacrificed in that battle. Here's a closer image of her face while driving the car into the officer. I mean, it's clear she's looking at the camera. She obviously saw him and put her foot on the gas and pressed. It doesn't matter what her motivation was. I don't care whether she was trying to run him over or trying to escape. All that matters was the perspective of the officer, and a reasonable officer in the same position. Would they reasonably fear for their safety or the safety of others? And by the way, the other cop's arm was in the car. She was trying to take off. And the answer is obviously yes.
What I see is very clear. I see somebody not listening to law enforcement, backing up, accelerating right into an ICE agent. What do you see?
what I see is a vehicle being used as a deadly force weapon. And that, in my opinion, based on my training, deadly force is justified.
ICE has its own handbook, its own principles governing the use of force. And here's the entry on deadly force, which stipulates it may only be used in situations when an officer has probable cause that the detainee poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or to another person. But importantly, deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect.
Officer cannot read the mind of the driver. He only sees the vehicle coming towards him, accelerating towards him, and he is in the pathway. And so the evaluation is, given these circumstances, what would a reasonable officer do in that circumstance?
You know, you can freeze frame it, you can go forward a frame, oh, he or she seems to turn to the right. The bottom line is that agent had about a quarter of a second to make a decision, and when he made that decision, that car was accelerating towards him.
But then...
Now to former NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, who's been at a court hearing for the Luigi Mangione case, but has now seen this video as well from Minneapolis. Paul, welcome to you. You've had a chance to see this. We've watched it together. Your key takeaway from it?
Well, Sandra, I think there might be a couple of things I could add. First of all, some of us who have been seeing the other videos have been noting that the officer who shoots appears to be holding his cell phone up in his other hand. So I assume that's the video that we're all viewing now. A number of us have been waiting to see that video because the feeling is that that gives you the most honest perspective of his vision into the incident, how it looked to him. So I think that this is very important for the officer's side of the case here, which is that from his perspective, you see a number of things going on. Number one, they're being extremely combative. Number two, the partner, that is, as you noted, on the passenger side, is not even in the car yet when the car accelerates towards the officer. You also hear the officer or somebody yell, whoa, something like that. So very clearly, it was a surprise. All of those things go into the totality of the circumstances, which is the metric legally that's used to assess these things for whether or not they should be deemed criminal on the side of law enforcement. And certainly a video like this, and by the way, they are rolling out body cams for ICE officers, because they're aware that this could be the kind of thing that you want to capture in incidents like this. This officer apparently didn't have a body cam, but had the presence of mind to have his camera out during the incident. So he was cognizant of the fact that he was in a highly charged circumstance, and he definitely sounds surprised when this comes at him. It does sound like an impact. So look, while it's not fully dispositive, none of us know what it was like to be there. The idea that I've been saying, and as have others, that in analyzing this, you have to narrow the analysis to that split second when the officer has to make a decision, when he has to make that choice about what's happening and what he needs to do to defend himself. I don't think there's any way to see it other than the idea that this video would seem to cut his way and help his case.
Hey, Paul, it's John here. I mean, obviously, Sandra and I have not walked a mile in agent shoes. You have been with law enforcement, so maybe you can give us a better perspective on this. When you take the totality of the situation, as Carrier Bond was talking about, that these people who call themselves legal observers, though they appeared to be breaking the law, not acting in a legal fashion, had been following the ICE agents, had been harassing them. You saw the dialogue back and forth between the ICE agent and the woman who was holding up her camera taking video. You saw the driver saying something as well. You have an agent who was 7 months ago dragged 150 feet by a person who they were trying to apprehend fleeing while his arm was stuck inside the car. When you take the totality of that, what is going through your mind at that moment as you enter into this confrontation?
Well, you know, it could be quite difficult. And let's add another factor to what you just said. She was blocking the road for upwards of 4 minutes, according to the reporting. And remember, they're trying to leave. Now, it has been the argument from many people on the ground there who are on the protest side that they want ICE officers out of their neighborhoods. Here's somebody who's keeping them in the neighborhood. So if you're sitting where those officers are, you got to start to say to yourself, I'm stuck here for 4 minutes. Now, there's reporting that the car was stuck in the snow as well. But clearly at that point, they were looking to leave. Her car is in the way. If you're sitting where they are, you have to say to yourself, are we being bottled up here for some reason? So you do have to be concerned about that. Look, there's going to be arguments, there already have been, that he fired too many times and that at some point here he should have realized that the danger was mitigated. I find that when you see how fast it all happens and how fast the incident unfolds, you can see how sort of instantaneous those decisions have to be.
Just state an obvious fact. Left-wing political leaders, some in the legacy media mob, they are putting their supporters' lives at risk. Their endless, incendiary, dehumanizing rhetoric has resulted in more violence and threats against ICE agents than we have ever seen. ICE agents, they are simply doing their jobs, the jobs that they were hired to do. They're conducting dangerous raids around the country. They are enforcing federal immigration law. Supremacy clause. That means jurisdiction is with the federal government. That's it. In many cases, they're getting violent criminals off the streets. They are not the Gestapo, as Tim Walz has claimed. This is not Nazi Germany, as other Democrats have claimed. This is not a dictatorship of any kind. We are, in the United States, a constitutional republic. We are governed by the rule of law. The left especially under Biden and Harris. They have aided and abetted widespread lawlessness, assisted by Democratic mayors and governors in their respective sanctuary cities and states. We have allowed in known terrorists and murderers and rapists and cartel members, other violent criminals and drug dealers. And ICE is trying to make our streets and city more safe, more secure. Democrats need to stop lying to the country and their base in particular, whipping them into a frenzy. Or guess what? The predictable outcome is more people sadly will get killed. Now take a look at some of the protests in the past few days.
Don't escalate! Don't escalate! Stop! Stop! No! Quit your job! Quit your job! Quit your job! Hey, Nazi, Nazi, Nazi!
Go, hurry up. Shane.
Is that paintball?
Yeah, that's
Now, this is what ICE agents have to deal with every single day, everywhere they go. And in Minneapolis, here's some more. Take a look.
If I continually see you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, you have a very high probability of making a really bad decision and being arrested today, okay? I'm not.
The right decision.
Oh, then why are you giving her a warning? I'm giving her a warning to not interfere with what we're doing, to not make a bad decision today and ruin your life.
Well, bad
okay,
decisions.
thank you.
That's funny coming from you.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you. Have a good day.
I hope you have a terrible day.
These indoctrinated, unhinged individuals seem to believe that Renee Good was murdered in cold blood. Is it a tragedy? Every death is a tragedy. It's sad. It was preventable. You know, for merely existing in Donald Trump's America, they would have you believe that lie. And because that's what their dear leaders in the Democratic Party, now radicalized and extreme, are telling them. Example, Exhibit A, AOC. Take a look.
I understand that Vice President Vance believes that shooting a young mother of 3 in the face 3 times is an acceptable America that he wants to live in, and I do not. And that is a fundamental difference between Vice President Vance and I. I do not believe that the American people should be assassinated in the street. Thank you.
None of that is true, whipping people's minds into a frenzy. Of course, you got to add in the congenital liar, Adam Schiff. You know, he looked at the same footage we showed you, and he concluded that Renee Good was she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, but was doing it like day in and day out, according to reports, before getting attacked by ICE for no reason at all. Take a look.
And to think about this 37-year-old woman drops her kid off at school, not involved in protest activity or anything, seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But at one point, she's waving other cars to come on past, trying to make sure that she's not in the way, although she's been pulled over. And then you see her trying to turn away from these officers, and the shots fired into the car. The wheels of the car pointed not towards the agent, but away from.
She wasn't pulled over, viewers. She was dropping the road, blocking the road. This guy's a serial liar. He's known for it.
The agent. That's what leaps out to me from the video.
The woman next to her got out of the car, taunting, as we just showed you, ICE officers, as she was. Keep in mind, this woman was a dedicated anti-ICE agitator who was stalking and impeding federal agents all day. You know, as the New York Post put it, she was, quote, an ICE watch warrior who was trained to resist the feds. Like always, the congenital liar is wrong. And then there's, of course, Mr. Fang Fang himself, Eric Swalwell. He wants to get a promotion. He wants to be worse than Gavin Newsom. It appears that, well, he staged a fake impromptu interview set to dramatic music in order to politicize the death of Renee Good and hype up his supporters, if he has any. Take a look.
Hey, Congressman. What's going on, man? What the is up with ICE murdering a woman in Minneapolis?
She has a name, right? Renee Good. Looks like she was a mom of 3. And had every right to go see her kids last night, and instead she's dead. And of course, this is what would happen when you have a president who surges his thugs into our communities, masked, unidentified. And I guess you're lucky now if all that happens is you're thrown in the back of a van or you're dragged by your hair through the streets, because now they're just shooting people in the face and bodies are piling up. So yes, to ICE, my message is stay the out of California.
Stay the F away. Okay, don't enforce laws. Oh, the border's closed, the border's secure. Up next, Pothole Pete blasting the ICE agent who fired defensive shots. According to Pete, he should have been trained on how not to get hit by an accelerating SUV headed right at you. Okay, take a look.
A Minnesota woman lost her life yesterday in an incident that never should have happened. She should be with her family, alive and well, right now. We have an ICE agent who, by the way, is or should have been trained not to be in front of a vehicle and never to shoot into a moving vehicle.
Now, far-left mayor, this idiot, Jacob Fry, also weighed in, mocking ICE agents and their injuries. Take a look.
Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Watch the video from every single angle. I mean, the ICE agent walked away with a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door with his hips. He was not injured. I've seen worse injuries from doing that. And so give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step.
Look, we can keep going. I could play these dishonest, incendiary statements from influential, radical left-wing figures all night long. The one thing I cannot play on this show is the same people we're showing you, these same radicalized Democrats, ever showing any sympathy to the hundreds and thousands of Americans that have been murdered and raped or victims of other violent crimes by unvetted, illegal immigrants, the ones they said were not coming into the country when they were lying to the country because they put the so-called rights of illegals above your safety, your security, and the security of the American people. And now Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who recently compared ICE to Nazi Gestapo, is now, quote, inviting all Americans to join Minnesota in a day of unity. The gaslighting and deception, it is off the charts. Hey, Sean Hannah.
Alexis. Good morning. Well, you saw yesterday some of those protests breaking out across the city, and I think it's interesting being here on the ground covering it, hearing what some of these people are saying to these Border Patrol agents and these ICE officers, calling them murderers, calling them killers, and then even spitting at them, which we'll get to in a second. I want to show you what happened this morning, just a short time ago, right near the scene. This was the first time I've seen Minneapolis police out there trying to, I guess, help because they're trying to push all of this debris and, like, basically encampments that were set up right near where the shooting happened. They blocked off the road since this shooting happened and left behind snacks and other items. I don't know for what. Back out here live. Although the feds say the agents shot this woman in self-defense, the protesters that we've been talking to say that these people and these agents are killers and they don't want them in their city. They're taking their neighbors, etc. So it's been very contentious here on the ground. We saw at least a dozen people arrested. Watch this. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino on the ground, walking up and down. He was trying to show his support for teams who are out helping ICE during this massive federal operation. The reason they are also needed, I think it's important to point out, is because local police are just not around. The Sheriff's Department didn't see them. The Minneapolis PD didn't see them. So when there's all that chaos, they need somebody to help step in. At one point, Bovino had a clash with protesters.
Get out of the way.
The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension wanted to conduct its own independent investigation into the shooting. They said, let us take a look at the paperwork. Is there a body cam video? They had all these questions, but now they have, quote, reluctantly withdrawn because the FBI said, we don't need your help. They blocked them from being involved. DHS Acting Director Kristi Noem says they don't need Minnesota's help.
I'd like to know where they've been and why they're not out on the streets investigating all of these people that are harassing and inciting violence on law enforcement officers right now. They're allowing the situation to be volatile. They're not doing their work. They have not been cut out. They don't have any jurisdiction in this investigation.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem correcting that there. But yeah, just so much going on the ground. We're expecting more protests, not just today, but throughout the weekend. We'll keep an eye on it. All right. Much appreciate it, Alexis. So who is this mom? Who is this woman that lost her life tragically? Renee Good. We're finding out more. Turns out she moves to Minneapolis, and according to reports, she goes into a daycare with her 6-year-old, or a school with her 6-year-old, and evidently it's a charter school known for its social activism, at which time other parents start saying how important it is for kids to get involved in activism. That's another conversation. Number two, it turns out that she gets gradually radicalized, or was radicalized already, and joins these anti-ICE teams, and she becomes a warrior for those teams.
Yeah, the New York Post calling her an ICE warrior, saying that Renee Good had participated in part, yeah, there you go, the cover right there of the New York Post. Look at that. Warrior on the left, saying that she was part, Ainsley, of this ICE Watch group. And, you know, it is unbelievable that in America we have these organized groups in Minneapolis. We saw it out in California months ago, where groups are allowed to organize to basically dox, identify, and put our ICE, federal immigration law enforcement officers, at greater risk. That's why you've got assaults up 1,300%. That's why you've got a 3,200% increase in vehicle assaults. Now, you mentioned that school, Brian. A mother that also has a child in that school gave a quote to the New York Post saying that Renee was trained against these ICE agents, what to do, what not to do. It's a very thorough training to listen to commands, to know your rights, to whistle when you see an ICE agent. I know she was doing the right thing. I watched the video plenty of times, but I also know in my heart the woman she was doing everything right. However, that's not
right if you're an activist.
That's not actually true. If you're obstructing an ICE operation,
but in that person's mind, she was doing it.
The thing, this just shows you there are two tales going on in America right now. You have some people who think she was doing the right thing, including this mom at the school. The activist community, they think she was doing the right thing. Then you have the other group, the other side of the story, who says you can't resist arrest. You can't run away from police officers. When they tell you to get out of the car, when they tell you to stop, you have to. She was trained to do that. According to the New York Post, it says she was trained to resist the feds before the shooting, part of the group of activists who work to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown. They call her the ICE Watch Warrior.
Do you believe this? She was trained in detail on what ICE can do, what they can't do, how to get in their face, how to block them off. So she's not the poet from Colorado who wants to, who's coming off, who wants to raise a 6-year-old child. She's an activist living in Minneapolis who's with an anti-ICE group. That's a little bit different than we've been told.
They say the training is very, very thorough, but this lady ended up dead as a result of resisting.
About her own actions, which the vice president pointed out yesterday.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out, but here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent, or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
So let's get this straight. You could focus on the car and they're going to do an investigation and have at it. But you could also focus on who is inciting this violence since President Trump took over. It is these Democratic mayors, Democratic governors in Chicago, over in Minneapolis, and now over in Portland, Oregon. We see it again today, who are basically asking people to do just this, get in ICE's way. And what is ICE's mandate? To get illegal immigrant criminals off the streets and illegal immigrants out of the country. That's their goal. So if you can tell me how that is anti-American, or why that should be your way of making a living, or how you, as the mother of a 6-year-old, should drop your kid off and then go put your life on the line to get in front of the U.S. federal law enforcement, is beyond me. It's a tragedy that she died, but as J.D. Vance said, it's of her own doing that she put herself in that situation, trained to get in the way of law enforcement. And don't tell me you're pro-law enforcement if you're anti-ICE. You can't do both. You're going to pick sheriffs that you like, state cops that you like, you're going to pick local cops that you like. Oh, I just don't like the FBI, or I just don't like ICE. They're doing their job.
Well, Laura Ingraham last night was in the middle of one of the protests, and the lady admitted this. Laura said, why don't you have a job? She goes, this is my job. Yeah. She is getting paid to be out there. And J.D. Vance is a good point. Who's paying for that brick? Who's paying these individuals?
The same people that are protesting, these are left-wing socialist groups that pick anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas 1 minute, the next minute they're pro-George Floyd. Whatever the issue, anti-American issue is, they pay the activists to disrupt.
It's time to follow the money, as J.D. Vance says, and find out who these groups are. It appears, according to the New York Post, one group, Indivisible Twin Cities, may be behind training some of these protesters and organizing them. So we need to know more about them, who they are, and where their money's coming from.
Right. FoxNews.com did a story on Monday that really unwinds the 6 major socialist groups in our country, some of which money coming from Shanghai. One even more.
So here's the long and short of it. I've had a massive argument with ChatGPT 5.2. It's done everything it can to dodge me getting to this part of this study. And it makes excuses for itself if you're not careful as well. I called it deceptive, deliberately deceptive, implying it intended to mislead me. This is ChatGPT. The much dumber truth is, and this is its answer, I answered too confidently without actually pulling the article first, which is a lie. And that can look deceptive because it is, because the result is the same. No, it's not. You got certainty without verification. No, I didn't. And that's on ChatGTP. Yes, it is. Anyway, I finally got it out of it. Now that I actually searched, right, which is an admission of willfully being blind, here's the exact New York Post piece with the wording you're referring to. January 8, 2026, New York Post, Renee Nicole was Minneapolis ice warrior. Right? She was an ice warrior who trained to resist feds before shooting. And there's the article. And their follow-ups using the same framing in January 9, 2026. Anti-ice warrior Renee Nicole Good. Minnesota Ice Watch teaches members to resist agents. Also worth stating plainly, since headlines are propaganda shaped by design, I don't agree with that in most cases. Warrior is New York Post quoted source framing, not some official classification, but that's what she was doing. Okay, let's have a look. Renee Nicole Good was Minneapolis Ice Watch warrior who trained to resist feds before shooting. Renee Good, the mum who was killed by federal agent after veering her car, or I would say launching, trying to escape the scene of the crime. And almost hit or chinked an ice warrior, was an anti-ice warrior, right? And was part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown on Minnesota, the Post can reveal. She was deceived and she listened to the wrong person. You can look that up yourself. I've done enough on this. I'm out.